Have you ever seen somebody wearing an outfit that was out of season? Maybe it was winter and they were wearing a t-shirt, shorts, and sandals. Maybe it was summer and they were wearing all black with a hoodie and some boots. And you looked at them and said, something ain't right. Well, guess what? Spiritually, that's what it looks like when you are not walking in alignment with the season that you're in. Today, we're going to talk about how to maximize the season that you're in. Welcome to the Kingdom Confidence Podcast. I am your host, Coach Jesse Cole. Thank you for being here. This is the place where Kingdom Marketplace leaders come to get practical strategies that they can implement into their life and business. And I'm excited that you're here today because we're talking about how to maximize the season that you're in. We hear about seasons all the time. This is your season for this. It's your season for this. It's your season for this. But very few times have I heard anybody teach on how to navigate the season you're in. Not only that, how to be able to identify, how to identify the season that you're in. What season am I in? And how do I navigate this season? So we're going to talk about that today a little bit. And we're going to take the 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall. We're going to take the 4 seasons, and I want to share with you what each season represents and how God can bless you in that season. And not only that, how you can identify when you're in that season. There are things that happen around you that give you clues to what season you may be in, of course. So make sure that you get this information, but also that you take it to God in prayer. Use discernment. Don't try to force a season. Don't try to say, well, Coach Jesse said this, so this must be. No, take this information, take it to the Lord in prayer, use discernment to make sure that you are in the right season. So let's talk about winter. Winter is a season of rest. I live here in Michigan, and there's a lot of snow happens in Michigan. So the ground is resting. It gets gloomy. People are not outside like they were in the summertime. It's a time of rest. Winter is a season of rest and refinement. So if winter is a season of rest and refinement, spiritually, if God is calling you into rest, but you're steady striving, you're steady trying to hustle and grind when he's saying, no, I need you to take a step back, then you are actually operating outside of your season. It's like you're wearing a t-shirt, shorts, and sandals when it's snowing outside and 0 below 50, right? You're wearing the wrong clothes, you got the wrong outfit on for the wrong season. Winter is not a punishment. It's not a setback. It's a sacred pause for strategy. Winter is a sacred pause for strategy. God needs you to rest. It's just like when God hides it, just like God hides a seed in the soil before it sprouts, or maybe a gardener or a farmer hides the seed in the soil before it sprouts. That's what winter is like for us, right? He often pulls you into a quiet place in your business, in your life, so you can refine your vision, so that you can strengthen your foundation and prepare you for greater impact. We live in a culture where people are just hustling and grinding and chasing the bag and striving and burning out. Rest is a holy activity. Rest allows, number one, physically, your body to come into alignment, your mind to come into alignment, and your spirit to come into alignment all together. But if you never rest, you're not going to get what you need. So if you're in the winter season, it's time to rest. It's time for you to rest. All right. So that's winter. That's what winter represents. The warning is that if you don't rest, then you're not going to be able to experience God's best because you're not in alignment. And then we have spring. Spring is the season of planting and positioning. Spring is the season of planting and positioning. What you talking about, Coach Jesse? Well, spring is a time for you to get ready, right? If winter isn't a setback, it's a sacred strategy. Well, spring is when God calls you to sow bold seeds of faith. Spring is a time for you to clear out, to clean out what no longer serves you, and sow bold seeds of faith. Detach from things that are not in alignment. That's why we call it spring cleaning. That's why in the springtime you have to open up your windows to get that stale smell out of your house. That's why when you go outside, you clean up the leaves and you pull up the weeds and you prepare for summer, because spring is a time for planting and positioning. It's a time to clean out the outdated systems in your business. It's a time to maybe refine or rebrand the mission or the vision of your business. Springtime. And position your business or ministry for the new opportunities that are coming. But if you're trying to hold on to these things that no longer serve you, you're not going to be able to experience God's best for you in your life or in your business. Spring is a time for planting and positioning. And then we have summer. Oh, we all love summer. I love summer too. Summer here in the Metro Detroit area is great. You get to go downtown and go to the riverfront, and we got boat rides, and we got all these great restaurants, and you get to have these backyard parties, these day parties, these white parties. There's like a lot of great stuff going on. Concerts outside, and the circus come to town, and it's a lot of things in this area. All of our major stadiums are like within less than a mile of each other, so it's always walking distance and a lot going on, right? Summer is when God invites you to enjoy the fruit of your obedience. Summertime is a time for where God invites you to enjoy what you planted and positioned for in the spring. God said, okay, now it's time to enjoy it because you were obedient. You planted the seed, and now he's going to expand your influence because you did what you're supposed to do in the season that you're in. You weren't trying to rest in the spring because rest is for the winter. You weren't trying to, push through because right now it's time to enjoy. Summer's not a time for toiling. Summer's a time for receiving. So it's a season. Summertime is the season of momentum. It's a time to collaborate, make new partnerships, get out there more, walk confidently in who God has called you to be. You prayed for it, you prepared for it, and because of this, you put the work in. Now it's time to get the results. Your faith is now producing the results in the summertime. We love summer, but in order to get to summer, you got to go through winter, and then you got to do the things in spring, right? And then after summer, it's fall. Listen, the beginning of spring, the middle of summer, and the beginning of fall are like those are my three favorite times of the year, right? Because it's not too hot, not too cold. You can still get out and do things. You can still enjoy. It's not getting dark as early, right? So the fall season is a time of reflection and realignment. So you in the wintertime, you've rested, you've gotten strategy. In the springtime, you've cleared away the things that no longer serve you. God helped you refine your systems. In the summertime, you're able to enjoy your obedience and and God's influence in your life. And now it's time to reflect, to realign. That's what fall is for. Fall reminds you that pruning precedes promotion. Say that again. Fall reminds you that pruning precedes promotion. What do I mean? So just as the trees and they shed what's no longer needed, what's no longer valuable, right? They shed the leaves, they start turning colors, and We love the beautiful colors, but really the leaves are dying. When they're green, they're living, but when they turn brown and yellow and orange, that means that the leaves are dying. They're dying a beautiful death. Like this is when God calls you to evaluate the partnerships, the projects, even the priorities that you might have. Evaluate these things because He wants you to make sure that you're evaluating because you want to keep only the things that align with His kingdom assignment for your next season, which is winter. He wants you to reevaluate, realign, reflect. What what did we do well? What did I do well? What did I didn't do well? What worked? What didn't work? How can we get better in specific areas? Who do we need to connect with, and who do we need as far as partnerships and relationships? Who do we need to just, not spend as much time with or make ourselves no longer available? Now these things are dying away. They were thriving at one time, like the green tree, like the green leaves on a tree, but now they're turning, they're dying now. And if you try to hold on to a dying leaf, it's just going to crumble in your hand, and you're going to be disappointed. So reflect and realign to ensure that you are holding on to the things that are in alignment with what God has for you, right? So how do you know though? How do you know what season you're in? Like, what are the signs? What are the signals? What are the key indicators that you are in a specific season? Well, if you've watched this far, you know I'm not talking about the physical season. I'm talking about spiritual seasons. So how do you know when you are in these specific seasons? I want to share with you some signs that you can actually identify with to know what season you're in, and then how you can move in that season, right? So in the winter is evidence of refinement, right? And so you know you're in a winter season when you sense God pulling you into stillness, when opportunities begin to die around you, right? You know that you're in a season of rest when things around you are no longer easily accessible, when certain things that were successful are no longer successful, when certain things that kind of piqued your interest are no longer desirable to you. You know that God is calling you into your spiritual cocoon because He wants to do some work. He wants you to rest in Him. You sense God putting you into stillness. Like doors that were once opened are no longer open. Your business slows down. Your clients want to put you on pause, or your clients not put you on pause. The speed or the momentum that you are collecting clients or connecting with clients, that begins to slow down. And momentum feels like it's just frozen, like the ground in the wintertime. It's just frozen. It's not a punishment. It just means that you're in the wintertime and God is calling you to rest in Him. What's happening is you're being stripped of all these distractions. You are being kicked out of your comfort zones. And God wants you to identify what your unhealthy attractions are. Because it's not until you let these things go that you're going to be able to come into a full rest in Him. Like this is the way to know that you're in the wintertime. Anybody feel that right now? All right. So in the springtime though, this is how you know that you are in a time of renewal. This is how you know. And I'm sharing these things with you because these are some things that have happened in my life and in my client's life, right? And so I want to make sure that we're sharing some practical wisdom, insights with you so that you can navigate your season, that you can maximize your season, that you're not wearing the wrong clothes in the wrong season, right? So you know you're in the spring season when like fresh ideas begin to spring up, where God begins to bring old ideas and gives you a new perspective around them. New collaborations begin to happen effortlessly. Opportunities appear without you striving for them. You feel revived, you feel renewed, you feel creative, and your expectation is elevated. In the wintertime, we get reclusive, we get quiet. The expectation is not as high, but in the springtime, expectation is revived, is renewed, right? You're prompted to clean out old habits. Not only that, maybe God is calling you to like detach from outdated systems or refine your systems. Like this doesn't work anymore, or this part of my business isn't serving my clients, or this part of my business is growing stale right now. It's evidence that you might be in a spring season. Anybody ever feel that? You feel that right now? You feel like you're in spring right now? It's not punishment. That's just what the season, that's just the season that you're in. And if you know that's the season you're in, you can move accordingly. And then for those of you who are in the summertime, we talked about summer as a time for opportunity. You in the summer when what you planted in past seasons is starting to produce results. Like God gave you ideas and strategies in the past, and maybe they didn't work, or maybe he, told you just to plant that seed and leave it alone. And now because you planted that seed in faith and it was watered over time, and God begins to give the increase. It just happens effortlessly because of your obedience in the past. Maybe you have more opportunities than you can handle. Like the business is so good that it almost feels like overbearing, overwhelming. Is the blessings are chasing you down. So now you got to learn how to prioritize. Maybe that means you hire somebody to help you carry the weight. Maybe that means you siphon some of the work out so that you don't become overwhelmed, and you're able to bless other people with the work, and your business gets blessed in the same time. Your influence grows. That's a good place to be in. When business is so good that you can't do it all, so that you got to hire people, or you begin to distribute some of the wealth to other people, and their businesses grow because their business grow. You begin to get influence with them. Kingdom partnerships. That's when that happens. That's one of the best things that I've ever experienced. When I couldn't do the work, or I was already booked up, and I was able to give some people in my network some business like that just made me happy. That you're in the summertime when your work just feels fruitful. There are seasons when your work just feels like it's just stagnant and stale, and like, what am I even doing this for? But in the summertime, your work is fruitful. That's when you know that you're in the season of expansion. Summertime. That's evidence of expansion. You begin to feel like you're fulfilled in your work, and you want to go deeper in your work so that you can serve at a deeper capacity. That's a good feeling to have. This is kind of like your harvest season, your harvest and stewardship, because it's coming in so good that you can't squander it, and you can't keep it all to yourself. So now it's all about creating systems around it to manage it. And then if it's still too much, how can I bless other people with this work? So God is increasing your reach. This is what I call kingdom credibility. God is giving you more kingdom credibility with people around you. He's also testing your ability to manage these blessings without burning out. Burnout happens when you take on too much, positive or negative. When the stress gets heavy, you burn out. When the blessings get heavy and you don't steward them well, guess what happens? You burn out. So how can you steward this blessing well? It's not just expansion for you, it's expansion for the people around you. And then how do you know when you're in the fall? Like the evidence of realignment in the fall. You're going to feel this holy nudge to kind of like slow down. Wintertime is when God's calling you into rest, but fall is when you start feeling like this, okay, I need to slow down. I need to evaluate what's going on around me. I need to release some things. Once you felt fruitful, the things that once felt fruitful now feel like it no longer fits. I remember going through that in my business, where when I first began, one of the things I was doing was I was a book coach, and that began to grow. And then God said, okay, I need you to shut that down for a season because I want you to do this. You still have this skill set. This is still a service. You can always bring this back later. But it got to a point to where even that began to get like weighty. And I feel like it didn't fit. Even though I was making money doing it, I was gaining influence. We helped a bunch of authors do that. It was fruitful, But however, I was sensing that if I continue to grow this thing, it could possibly prevent me from being and doing what I know God is calling me to do. So I was obedient to that, letting that go for a season, couple of years, and was focused for 3 or 4 years, focused on building the Kingdom Confidence message and the brand, right? And then God began to slowly introduce that back into my services, but it's not something that I promote anymore. It's something that I offer to my private clients. So the same skill set, just offered it a different way. So God begins to highlight where your time and your team and your focus needs pruning. Do you need to, give people an opportunity to go work somewhere else? I don't want to say fire them unless you need to fire them. But are you in the place where you can give somebody an opportunity to go do their own thing and you can support them in their own thing? Is there an opportunity for you to get more discipline around how you spend your time? Like what needs to be pruned around you? And also in the fall, you begin to reflect. You begin to have gratitude. And this is a time for strategic planning as well. Fall is a faithful transition. It's when God, he begins to trim what's unnecessary. Yeah. He begins to trim what's unnecessary so that you don't carry that into your next season, which is the wintertime. If you try to carry too much weight from the fall to the winter, you're not going to be able to rest properly. All right. So I wanted to share that with you today, identifying what season you're in, knowing that every season requires a different version of you. And my desire for you is that you are just obedient to what you need to be doing in that season, because each season is dependent on the season before it and after it. So it's all about syncopation. It's all about alignment. What you don't do in this season can become a disruption in your next season. If you're not 100% obedient in this season, you're going to feel the weight of that disobedience in your next season. And each season is going to feel like, man, it's going to feel incomplete. You're not going to be fulfilled if you don't do what you're supposed to do in that specific season. So I'm going to ask you a question, and you can write it in the comments section of this podcast. What season do you feel like you're in, and what evidence do you have to substantiate that? What season do you think you're in? Type that in the chat. What season do you sense that you're in right now? And what is your evidence that you're in that season? All right. Thank you for joining us today. Remember that what you want to become depends on your willingness to become it. Have a great day.